challenge 3 was all around project management capability gaps. There is definitely problems with the idea of accidental project managers, or in many cases called occasional project managers, so the people that are doing some of the delivery work. Again, it came up time and time again, not just in one type of emergency service, but across the piece. And again, one of the, the panel's discussions and lots of different things that came out of it, and lots of different ideas about what it is that they're doing in order to be able to deal with this issue about the capability that is, the gaps that exist in terms of delivering projects itself. So often we'll find that there are subject matter experts, so people that are, frontline staff normally that are managing projects because of their expertise, often known as off-the-desk project management, because they're doing it as a kind of like sideline to the day-to-day job that they're also doing. Often that they are doing project management in a very checklist-driven way, without totally understanding how to do project management. I think what came across really strongly is, because of this is an inconsistency. It's patchy capability because some people are doing quite well. They have a natural aptitude to it. Other people, it's just they're struggling because I've just been given this job. It's been dumped on me, and I'm doing the best that I can. And often what the PMO is finding is, because of this, yes, delivery is at risk, but it also means in many cases they're either PMO has been lent on quite heavily, or more worryingly, not at all. So these people are kind of left to it. What they also find is that because people are doing well in their kind of like specialist roles, it's like anything, one way of being able to promote is to give people extra responsibilities, with project management being one of them. I think what became apparent from some of the discussions was that project management is not really seen as a profession in its own right within these services, and in that, and because of that, not necessarily viewed as particularly important in terms of increasing these people's capability by leadership. Eileen, anything to add on the capability crisis?
I think this is part of it is driven by just the volume of change that needs to be undertaken. And again, once we've got the PMO challenged in terms of amount of time, quite rightly, the PMO is going to be focusing on those kind of large strategic projects and programs, and perhaps some of the other elements are seen to be, well, we can get somebody else to deliver those, and perhaps we haven't got time to give them support. And I think there's a real opportunity here to look at the kind of the long term capability of the organization about those paths in and out of project management, where people kind of move into a more formal project management role. And so we need to think about how can we make some of those delivery frameworks, some of those processes, some of that training, some of that education available to the wider community across the organization, without necessarily looking at a huge amount of more work from the PMO. So there's a couple of things that we would often kind of talk about, is about doing a kind of a light touch overview, almost kind of set of kind of a help sheet, or if we want to kind of call it a playbook, that says we use some of the standard methodology. We might have a delivery framework that has 5 stages in it or 5 phases in it. We can do a kind of a really light touch that allows people who are delivering projects outside of the kind of the strategic portfolio to say, well, actually, I can learn the organization's terminology, I can learn and use some of the project and program templates that we have across the organization, that almost kind of prepares me for when I'm going to kind of grow up to those kind of bigger and more kind of detailed projects. I think the other thing in terms of the sharing of that is recognizing that there is often a project management community, a community of practice, about perhaps opening that up to more than just the people who have project manager at their job title, because actually what you're happening there is you're having some knowledge management then across the organization, because the experienced project managers are going to be sharing things in that community with people who are doing, as Lindsay said, that kind of project management off the desk at the side. So I think it's really helpful having that kind of that minimum viable in terms of, if you want to kind of do a project, these are the kind of the things that we could recommend, and we can kind of build those skills from that community, or even from those people who work in the PMO, providing some kind of fundamental support for setting up the projects and programs for the people who are doing it off the desk. So very much in certain big organizations, we have somebody who's kind of building the business case and setting the project up, and it's handed over to an implementation manager. From a PMO perspective, we can help off the kind of those accidental project managers in the setup of their projects and programs, so at least they've got a chance of kind of being successful in their project. So a number of ways in which the PMO can help. But I think if we were going to go for one real kind of specific thing in terms of how we can help in this area, is really looking at that kind of standard and said, if you're going to do a project, these are the minimum things that we would do. So they've always got a kind of an easy checklist as they go through each phase of the project.
I think one of the things that has come out quite a bit, and also some that we have in the House of PMO Library, about a session that was run by someone from the NHS talking about their incubation period or phase 0, which was a really interesting share that about how they have managed to utilize that to help people that will be considered to be novices before projects are formally launched. What you're seeing on the screen in terms of the treatments are just some of the treatments for each of the challenge areas. We've not put down everything, because that's the whole idea of the report, to have a read of the report, because there's a lot more in there. We've just pulled out just a few of them. And what we will be doing over the coming weeks is obviously sharing some of the things that are already in this report. The House of PMO has already got a lot of resources that can help people to delve deeper into this area to make some of these things work for you.